Welcome to another edition of the RHL Podcast. My name is Jason Hills, owner of the Benalto Bandits, and I'm joined by Landon Iwaniuk, the owner and general manager of the Sin City Snipers. Also joined by Dave Weigel, the owner and general manager of the Medicine Hat Roadrunners, and Brian Cinnamon, owner and general manager of the Macon Whoopie. How is everyone doing tonight?
I'm doing good, Jay. Hopefully you're doing just the same.
Yeah, doing well.
Happy to be here.
So, obviously, with no hockey going on, there's not a lot in the news, but I think maybe one thing we can start to talk about is for the first time in the history of the Canadian Hockey League, there will be no Memorial Cup played, as the Western Hockey League, the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, and the Ontario Hockey League not only canceled their playoffs, or their season, but also their playoffs. So we're obviously in uncertain times here, but disappointing to see that happen. But obviously, with everything that's going on in the world right now, it's understandable. But I guess maybe we can talk about everyone following the Canadian Hockey League this year and what they saw across the country amongst all three leagues and what they all thought.
Well, I took a little peek at the Western Hockey League a little bit and noticed there was a player named Connor Zary that was leading the scoring race, and he's draft eligible this year, and he's draft eligible, but he's ranked around 18th, I believe.
Yeah.
Found that interesting.
Plays with the Kamloops Blazers.
And another thing I found interesting is the Western Hockey League, for the first time, granted exceptional status to a 15-year-old to play next year as a 15-year-old.
Yeah, obviously it happened last year with Matthew Lavoie, but he was kind of granted partial status. And so he did play some games with the Regina Pats with the Winnipeg Ice. He played games with the Winnipeg Ice this year, and but spent most of the season with the Sherwood Park Crusaders because his older brother, is also on the team. But you're right, Dave. It's going to be interesting to see how this young man does going into. The WHL held their draft lottery today, and the Regina Pats got the number one pick. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. It's most of the guys that have been granted this opportunity in OHL and in the Quebec Major Junior League, have rose to the occasion and shown why they've been granted exceptional status. But it's going to be interesting to see how this young kid does. Are you guys surprised that it took so long for the Western Hockey League to grant someone full exceptional status?
No.
Well, don't they draft a year earlier?
Yes.
They draft 14-year-olds. Like they're drafting kids that are second year Bantam. And so I mean, this kid would be starting his first year midget next year, and but he will have the opportunity to go play in the Western Hockey League. So and it's I've always thought there were maybe some kids over time that maybe could have been granted that exceptional status, but in the WHL. But it's kind of neat to see that one finally is able to go this route. So
Well, in the past, I don't think there's anybody that really could, like, looking at in the past of the players that have played in the Western Hockey League, I don't think there's anyone that really, because it's that year younger and being 15 that you have to come in as an exceptional player, that that none of the players have impressed me that much that they should have been given exceptional status, maybe.
No, I know Tyler Benson was, considered potentially as someone, but I know that having covered his older brother at the Oil Kings, I know that they were very adamant that they didn't want him to get the exceptional status, but I know that was floated about when he was tearing up Bantam leagues, the Alberta Bantam AAA League. So, but you're right. I don't really, in the last 15, 20 years, I can't think of anyone specifically that, would have had that status coming out of Bantam for sure.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with Dave that there really hasn't been anybody that stands out to that level, because when you think about it, the list of exceptional status players is very short given the history of these leagues all across North America anyhow. So
yeah, I mean, you look, it's been very. I mean, the only one that really didn't pan out was Sean Day, but outside of that, they've all kind of, rose to the occasion and really kind of showing that they are at that level.
but the list is very short still.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Connor McDavid, John Tavares, Aaron Ekblad.
Well, there's more.
I know there's more, but those are three that come to my mind. But there's a kid there's a kid this year that was granted exceptional status in the Ontario League. He's turned 16 in January. Played for the Kingston Frontenacs and ended up in 58 games, 39 goals, 27 assists for 66 points. Pretty good year as a 15 and a half year old playing in the OHL.
Yeah.
This kid's 5'11", 180.
Yep.
Shane Wright.
How
eligible?
Yes, yeah, he didn't look out of place all year long, from all the reports that I had seen, and obviously never got a chance to watch him play or anything. But when you're putting up that kind of numbers as a 15-year-old, that's pretty impressive. So
yeah, he led Kingston in scoring this year.
Yeah. So how, obviously with the old Memorial Cup this year, who would you guys have thought would have maybe been, obviously Kelowna was the host, Memorial Cup host for this season, but outside of the hosts, who do you think would have been the front runners to be in the 2020 Memorial Cup?
Very good question. I'm looking over the contenders here. They're saying number one ranked was Ryan Miranda Huskies. And does that have Alexei Lafreniere on it? Who's Alexei Lafreniere play for in the Quebec League?
He plays for Rimouski.
Rimouski.
Yeah.
I like Rwanda back in the day when they had Timo Meyer. I remember him ripping up the Memorial Cup tournament. So they always put together a good team over there. So if I had to pick a team, it would probably be them.
I think you can never really tell when it comes to the playoffs. I mean, you can kind of go with the favorites. In the OHL, you have to look at a team like the Ottawa 67s. I mean, they were pretty primed to go on a big run. In the Quebec League, you had the Moncton Wildcats as well. And then here in the Western Hockey League, here the Edmonton Oil Kings, they were the third best team in the league, and then you had Everett and Portland in the Western Conference as well that were battling it out for top spot, and then you also had a team like the Kamloops Blazers that were also primed to go on a deep run as well. But it's got to be it's uncertain times for everybody, but it's you look how this kind of just it was an abrupt end to the year, and how do you think it's going to affect some of these kids' draft stock? Not being able to go on a long playoff run or finish the season and then maybe have the under 18 tournament to showcase themselves as well. Do you think it's going to have a major effect going into the draft?
I don't. I think the standings are where they are right now, and they're pretty well frozen. They usually your draft stock gets hurt or what have you when you play in the playoffs and you don't perform well, or it boosts up if you do happen to have an exceptional playoff.
Yeah, I mean, these kids are so scouted so hard throughout the year that I think obviously the scouts are going to have a pretty good read on these kids, but obviously for some kids that maybe were hoping to get an opportunity to kind of help their draft stock with more opportunities, I don't see it changing too much. What about you, Brian?
I agree. It'll make a difference for some kids. Some of them, peaked for this time of the year or tried to peak for this time of the year, and they're not going to get an opportunity to show what they can do. And it will affect their draft positions.
Sources that I read all the time say this is going to be the deepest draft of all time. So I think a lot of scouts and experts already have a good idea of who they're going to be picking.
Really? Deeper than 1979 and 2003?
Yeah, I heard them say that this year has the most even talent throughout the rounds ever.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see from year to year how the drafts pan out. I wasn't around in the 1979 draft, but I always reference the 2003 draft as being one of the deepest ever, especially from a first round perspective, just the quality of talent. So it'll be interesting to see how this one shapes up over the next when you start comparing it down the road.
Yeah, this one is supposed to be a dynamite draft. There was with all the 17-year-olds that participated in this year's World Junior Championships at Christmas time. There was an inordinate amount of 17-year-olds that played in that tournament. And it just about broke the record, and I can't remember which year the record was held. But they had like 50 players that were 17-year-olds.
Yep.
So just to refresh everybody's memory, 1978 was the last year that they drafted 20-year-olds. So in 1979, they dropped the entry age from 20 to 18. So that meant all the 19-year-olds and all the 20-year-olds were eligible for that 1979 entry draft. And then that was also the year that the World Hockey Association amalgamated with the NHL. So you got a bunch of those kids at 20 years old that had played a year for the Birmingham Bulls for the most part, that were then eligible to be drafted. And that included Messier.
Yeah.
Gretzky was an exception, but Craig Hartsburg, Rob Ramage. Help me out, Jason. You know some of these
Ken
other guys.
Linsman would have been, or might have been in there, because I know he played for the Bulls.
Yeah, he may have been.
I'd have to look through the draft list here.
How as we talk about the draft and everything, you know, with the NHL season, you know, suspended as it is right now, there's a lot of talk about what's going to happen in the next coming months. You know, the NHL just recently reached out to all the teams asking about their arena availability going into August and that sort of thing. Now, obviously, if they're playing, you know, playoff hockey in August, there's going to be some sort of a shift in how, you know, maybe they're going to start the next season later. There could be all kinds of different things drummed up, different possibilities. Some people were talking about kind of like a March Madness style tournament with 16 teams, and the other teams just basically start a training camp that aren't participating. What all would you like? Like, I'm going to put you guys up on the hot seat here. You know, if the season gets canceled and they come back and they decide, okay, we want to award the 2020 Stanley Cup this year, we're going to come up with a solution. What would everyone's solution be? If you were in charge and you made the decision, what would everyone's decision be? We'll start with Landon. What would you say?
If a 2020 Stanley Cup has to be awarded, I would do a March Madness style winner take all sudden death format, kind of like the NFL does, because under this current pandemic situation, you can't be playing 3 or 5 games and doing a bunch of traveling and everything like that. So I would say that the team that has the higher standing gets home ice advantage, and it's a winner go home scenario.
So would you do it with people in the crowd or no?
No.
So they'd be in empty stadiums?
It would have to be like empty stadiums.
And so would you go off of basically the current standings as they were right now?
Yes.
Let's figure out what those. So would you go top 8 in each conference?
Yes, I would.
All right.
We're under current standings.
Okay. So let's.
No, I think you got to go not top 8 in the conference, but you've got to go the top 3 in each division plus the best percentage.
Well,
of the remaining
this is Landon's perceived way of doing it. So if you were to go, you would have in the East, you'd have Boston taking on Columbus. You would have Washington. Now, would you go by points, Landon, or would you just go by the current seedings, like as if it was a playoff format right now?
I'd be points only, highest points.
So it doesn't matter if. Okay.
Highest points get home ice.
Okay, so then they would have Tampa playing Carolina. Then you would have Washington playing Pittsburgh and Toronto and Philly. Or if you kept it in Atlantic, you could go, because Toronto, Carolina, and Columbus all have 81 points. You could put Toronto up against Tampa as well. But those would be some interesting matchups.
Dynamite television.
And in the West, you would have St. Louis taking on Nashville. You would have Colorado taking on Winnipeg. You would have Vegas taking on Dallas. And you would have Edmonton taking on Calgary.
Dynamite. Winner take all. Sudden death.
The one game.
One game only.
All right.
Must see TV. Nobody in the stands.
All right. Dave, what would your solution be?
Well, if it was possible that there's going to be any type of hockey, and it's a bit of a pipe dream, but I kind of like the way Elliot Friedman's take on the playoffs would be. That would be the top 12 in each conference, with play-in games like a best-of-3 series started off from the 7th seed, I believe, to the 12th seed. How it would work.
Okay.
But you would even it up, so you'd have 8 on each side coming out of that round. And it would all be done on the percentages.
Okay.
So that would mean in the first round, let me see, Montreal, who would they be taking on? They would have to be taking on Pittsburgh, I believe.
That'd be a dandy matchup.
Florida would be playing Toronto. The Rangers in Carolina. And Columbus and the Islanders. And then in the West, it'd be Chicago and Dallas, Arizona, Calgary, Minnesota, Winnipeg, and Nashville, Vancouver. And you notice they didn't.
After round, then the teams that got the bye would play the lowest seeds.
Yeah. So St. Louis right now is the top team in the West, percentage-wise.
So for the next round, would you do a best of 3, or how would you do it?
Oh, best of 7 from then on in. Best of 3 in the first round, and then best of 7.
Would it be an empty arena, or would it be?
Well, they'd have with fans in there. The only way that they'll do it.
Yeah. And Brian, what would your solution be?
So I would take the top 8 teams in each conference, figured by winning percentage or points per games played, which will give you an accurate definition where all 8 teams in each conference finished. And then it would go 1 to 8, best of 3, best of 3, best of 5, best of 7, with fans. Not sure what would happen down in some of the southern cities when the temperature is 105 outside.
Yeah. And that's, I mean,
Carolina, Tampa Bay. What do you do? Carolina, Tampa Bay. It's 100% humidity and 100 degrees.
And that's just it, guys. Like, I mean,
And now they're skating around in fog, trying to clear the fog out.
Yeah, it's just in the meetings I'm having, and the likelihood of I mean, I don't see this stuff starting to clear up until September, October even, in a sense where, we're safe enough where we could have, in large gatherings where we're, talking, 15, 20,000 people going out to an event. So, it's definitely going to have an impact on the sports landscape. To what degree, we don't know yet. But, I found it interesting that the league was literally asking teams about their arena availabilities in August because, I mean, a lot of NHL teams share their arenas with, basketball teams and like NBA teams and stuff. So it's going to be interesting times. I honestly don't know if we're gonna, see sports being played at that level for, the next several months. But I mean, we hope to remain optimistic, obviously. But it'd be interesting to see, how some of these ideas come about and whether or not they can be pulled off. So my other question I have for you guys now is. Season ends today. Who are your award winners? Who's your Hart Trophy winner? Who's your Vezina winner? Who's your Calder winner? Who's your Norris Trophy winner? Let's go with those. Those are the four major ones. The Coach of the Year.
Ed Lindsay.
Ted Lindsay, yeah. And see, if some of our selections are similar or if we're completely different. Let's see where we're at. So I started with Landon last time. Let's start with you, Dave. Who would be your selections for the 2019-20 award winners for the NHL season?
Okay. Well, the first one would be the Hart. Write this down here too. But for the Hart Trophy.
And if you want, sorry to interrupt, you can maybe even put your three candidates and who you would pick.
Jeez.
I like putting you on the spot. You know that.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm looking.
No, I'm looking for my player rankings actually.
Oh. Dave's got his spreadsheets out. He's looking at his rankings.
Yes. Trying to find my ranking sheets, and for some reason it's not showing up 1920 here for some reason.
Well, look at 2020 instead.
There we go. Forwards. Well, number one on my forward list, believe it or not, Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid. But I'd also put a long shot would be Mika Zibanejad for me. Even though he won't get put in there because he only played 57 games.
He's had a hell of a year, hey? I mean, he hit over 40 goals.
Yeah, he's at 41 right now.
Yeah. I mean, you knew he was good. I mean, you're really seeing him now really blossom.
It's the Artem Panarin effect. I would put Artem Panarin ahead of Mika Zibanejad for the Hart Trophy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's another guy that's been.
So for the Hart, who would be the winner?
Now that's a tough decision. Because I'm not a big. Tell you the truth, Leon Draisaitl probably will win it, but his The one stat that really sticks out is the plus minus, and I know that's not a stat that people go by, they ridicule it, but it's hard to see his point total so high and him as a minus player.
I mean, at one point this year, Dave, he was at over minus 20.
Yes, and
That's I know that's kind of a number that you have to take with a bit of a grain of salt, but holy moly, I don't believe there's ever been, I heard this a while back. I think there's only been one player to ever win the Hart that was a minus player, and he was literally -1.
Yeah.
And I believe that was Mario Lemieux, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't discredit what he did this season, but I mean, it's not a runaway. It's certainly not a runaway. I wouldn't, say that. So, okay. What about the Norris Trophy?
The Norris Trophy. Gotta go to my defense ratings. I can find them. I got everything split up into here. John Carlson would definitely be number one. Robin Yossi would be the other guy. And I'm not sure who a third would be. I'll throw in Brent Burns. And I'll go John Carlson to win the trophy.
Okay. What about the Vezina?
For top goaltender, that's Connor Hellebuck. And I'm not sure who. It's so tight for the other goaltenders but the one that stands out on top is Connor Hellebuck.
Okay. Coach of the year?
Well, I'm gonna go Dave Tippett. I think he's been a hell of a coach, even though he'll probably go to Tortorella. He's done quite a job in Columbus to get them where they are. So Tortorella, but okay. Honorable mention to Dave Tippett.
Okay, Brian, who would be your Hart Trophy winner?
Leon Draisaitl.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. The other guy that I've really gotten an even greater admiration for his play this year is David Pastrnak. I would put him in consideration for the Hart. And yeah, probably McKinnon.
Okay. And your Norris Trophy winner?
John Carlson.
Okay.
Not even close.
Okay. Vezina?
Vezina? Yeah, I don't care. I don't care.
You don't care about goalies or what?
No, I don't care about goalies. Rookie of the year now. You didn't ask Dave that.
Oh, yes, I forgot. About the Rookie of the Year. We can go back to Dave as well.
He'll say Cale Makar anyway.
Yes, I'm going to say Cale Makar.
Okay. See, I knew it. And Coach of the Year for me is John Tortorella.
Okay. Now, before I go to Landon and my picks, I'm gonna I'll kind of go over and which one you guys think would be some of the closest races to some of these awards. So Landon, who is your Hart Trophy winner?
The league's winner is Leon Draisaitl. My winner is Artem Panarin.
Okay.
Without Artem Panarin, the Rangers are nowheres because they have a good young team. But it was because of Artem Panarin that they even have a chance at the playoffs.
Okay.
You need a superstar to guide your team, and Artem Panarin has been a performer no matter where he's played the game of hockey, and he's elevated his game to be considered a superstar that he is today. So Artem Panarin is my winner.
Okay.
Guy loves Russians.
What about your Norris Trophy winner, Landon?
Norris Trophy winner is John Carlson. The way he started the season, leading the league in scoring with 20 or 25 points there to start the year as quickly as he did was simply remarkable, and very few defensemen have ever been able to do that sort of thing, and he's kept it up to this point in the year as far as his overall play is concerned. So John Carlson is the clear no-brainer winner of the Norris Trophy. And Rookie of the Year is also a no-brainer in Cale Makar. And I also agree with you guys that in Columbus, John Tortorella would be the winner of the Coach of the Year.
Okay.
And goaltender, since no one's mentioning it, maybe you consider one of the Columbus goalies as a surprise Vezina Trophy winner, because without goaltending, they don't have a team either.
Okay, Elvis for Vezina. I like that.
So that's something you have to consider too, because without the goaltending, they don't have a team.
Well, I mean, you look at Columbus, and I mean, their goaltending, it's been a real tandem, but their stats individually don't really. I mean, Elvis Merzlikins didn't win a game until probably close to December. Then he got hot. But I do understand where you're coming from there.
Then he got 4 or 5 shutouts in a row.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
Where'd that come from?
Yeah, I know. I mean, he does have a 2.35 goals against average, but I mean, he started his career pretty rough.
Yep. I drafted him in the franchise.
Yeah. He literally did not win a game until December 31st was his first win.
But since then, he
started his career 5 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 5.
But is Columbus considered a playoff team without them?
It's a combination of like a lot of different things. But for me, my Hart Trophy winner is Nathan McKinnon. I think he's proven again, that he is, one of the best players in the world. To lose Mikko Rantanen for as long as they did, that team was again decimated with injuries over the course of the season, and he continued to lead the way. Obviously, Leon Draisaitl will get some consideration. David Pastrnak would get some consideration. Artemi Panarin would also get some consideration. Norris Trophy winner, I know you guys have all said John Carlson. I'm going to throw a vote in there for Roman Josi. The guy, all he does is play a solid two-way game and put up double-digit goal totals every single year and play 25-plus minutes a night. So I would go with Roman Josi. But I mean, you can't discredit what John Carlson's did this year in Washington. The Vezina Trophy. You guys will probably say I'm a homer in this pick, but I have to go with Tuukka Rask. I mean, he's among the league leaders in wins. He's got the best goals against average, and he's near the top in save percentage. In the last few years, he's had that little bit of a lull, slow starts of the year, and then he picks it up. Well, this year, there was no lull throughout the entire season with him. He was right from the opening puck drop. He was ready to go. So he'd get my vote.
I think
Coach of the year. Pardon me,
Jason. I think he played a little less games this year.
Yeah, he started last year.
I think he's fresher.
It started last year when they brought in Halak. He wasn't playing as much, and Halak was able to really pick up the slack when Tuukka Rask was a little off his game. But this year, to be quite honest, Halak's been good, but not to the level he was last year. Because at times last year there really was no difference, but there's been some games this year where Halak was just off completely. But Tuukka has been solid all season long, so he would get my vote. Coach of the year, gosh, there's so many different candidates. From John Tortorella to Travis Green to those are a couple that stand out. Obviously, I would look at Tortorella as being, the favorite. But I mean, you'd have to also look at, Alain Vigneault in Philadelphia. Those would be kind of my three candidates. And I would also put in Bruce Cassidy. I mean, his team, they're at the top of the standings. But everyone kind of expected Boston to be near the top again. So, those would be the three. One other, and then Rookie of the Year. Cale Makar would be the guy I'd lean to, but Quinn Hughes, I think, would definitely give him a big run. I don't know if it would be a runaway where Cale Makar runs away with it. I think Quinn Hughes would also get some serious consideration as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Agreed.
And what about the Frank J. Selke Trophy for the best two-way forward in the league? Everyone's gonna know who I'm gonna say, but I'm gonna guess who everyone else, or who would everyone else pick?
Ryan O'Reilly.
And that'd be my pick. That's the first name that came to my mind too.
Okay, and Landon.
The best two-way young player in the game today is Sasha Barkov of the Florida Panthers.
And my pick would be obviously my favorite player, Patrice Bergeron. He continues to, I think one day they could very well name that trophy after him. He continues year in and year out to be, if not the best, one of the best defensive forwards in the game. And but you look at over the course of the season, there's lots of different other candidates that pop up. Ryan O'Reilly, Alexander Barkov, Sean Couturier. There's some Anze Kopitar. There's some strong candidates that, and then everyone forgets about a guy like Jonathan Toews. That's what he was obviously, that was his MO.
Yeah, you're right.
At the start of his career and for a good chunk of his career. So,
out of Toronto, they were suggesting Austin Matthews might be
Come
a candidate
on.
one year.
Come on.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. He's got some stats to back it up with the block shots and the takeaways. That's what Datsuk, how he won, was on all the takeaways he had, and Matthews rates high in both those categories.
Okay, but Dave, we're gonna have a little debate here. Pavel Datsuk, you could put out on the ice in a tight situation, and you knew he could win you that draw. You knew he would come up with that block shot. I mean, you can't put Austin Matthews out right now and expect him to shut down other teams' top lines. Like, I can't see it. I would literally eat my cell phone if he ever won a Selke Trophy. Like,
I want to see that now. Let's get down on YouTube for the extra likes and views in this podcast, boys.
Like, that's the Toronto media spinning more verbiage of. I mean, that's like earlier saying how William Nylander deserves the
Masterton Trophy,
comeback player of the year. Like, that's just complete garbage because he sat out half the year last year to a contract holdout. Give me a break.
Hey, folks, we don't have any hockey to watch. Let's see the recording of Jason Hills eating a cell phone.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Austin Matthews is a great player. But he could win a Rocket Richard Trophy before he wins a Selke Trophy.
Yeah, that's a more appropriate award for Austin Matthews for sure. Rocket Richard.
It's
Well, he's splitting it this year. Some guy called Ovechkin.
No, it's David Pastrnak.
Yeah, Pasternak's got the.
David Pastrnak and Ovechkin that are sharing that award.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I thought Matthews was right there.
Yeah, he's
No.
one goal
He was
behind.
too busy blocking shots, Brian.
Yes.
He didn't score enough goals down the stretch. He was too busy blocking shots.
Taking away the puck from the other defender.
Wow.
He's preventing goals.
Anyway, funny little story about Pavel Datsuk. One of the Red Wings said that it was early in his first year in the league, and the veterans said there was this skinny kid wandering around the dressing room. I thought it was somebody's son. He says, then I found out it was a Russian named Datsuk.
Yeah, I've, you know what? For over the course of my career, working in the media and interviewing players, pregame, postgame, that sort of thing. It's interesting to see when they're just wearing, plain clothes or in their suits or what have you. Like, some guys are a lot smaller than you would expect or a lot bigger than you would expect. And I know Datsuk was one of those guys. I mean, he was incredibly strong. Like, you'd watch him in the puck battles he would win along the boards and stuff. I mean, he was incredible to watch that way. I look at a guy like, you look at Sidney Crosby and you look at him as being, you look at him and he's 5'11" and, but it's his lower body strength. I mean, he's so strong on the puck and he's so powerful with his legs, and that's where he gets the advantage on guys, right? Because he's not overly big. Like, he's not Ovechkin big. He's not, it's not like he's 6'3" and 225 pounds. So it's interesting to see when you watch guys that maybe don't necessarily have the size or aren't known for that sort of thing. And Datsuk wasn't very big, but he had he was just such a smart player. But he was so strong on the puck, even though he wasn't a big player.
He had some of the same moves that Wayne Gretzky has. You know, if you want to talk about taking a puck off a guy by coming up behind him, lifting his stick.
Yeah.
You know, the two best guys that I ever saw doing that was Gretzky and Datsuk.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Landon.
What's up? What's up, Brian?
You want to hear the 1979 revised draft?
Sure.
Revised based on the guy's ability and his careers in the NHL. There's 21 teams then. So I'll start with number 21 and work up to number 1. 21, Pelle Lindbergh. You probably don't even know who he was.
Flyers goalie.
He was a goalie with the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yep.
He's that guy I told you the story. I told you that story about him, the dirtiest play that I think I ever saw.
No, you haven't told me that story.
Philadelphia playing Edmonton. The Oilers get a penalty. Pelle Lindbergh is rushing to the Philadelphia bench, and Dave Lumley elbows him in the head and knocks him out. It's one of the dirtiest plays I ever saw because Lindbergh had no idea that was coming. Number 20, Mike Foligno, drafted 3rd overall by Detroit. Number 19, Craig Hartsburg, drafted 6th by Minnesota. And he was one of the baby bulls. Number 18, Dave Christian, drafted 40th. Mats Naslund, drafted 37th. Number 16, Paul Reinhart, taken 12th. 15, Rick Vive, taken 5th.
That's the Reinhardt brothers' dad, right?
Yep. Rick Vive was another baby bull. Thomas Steen, drafted 103rd. Rob Ramage, drafted 1st. Another baby bull. Neil Broughton, drafted 42nd. Brian Propp, drafted 14th. Top 10, Brad McCrimmon, drafted 15th by Boston. Mike Ramsey, 11th by Buffalo, probably the best penalty killer to ever play in the league. Number 8, Kevin Lowe, drafted 21st by Edmonton. Number 7, Guy Carbonneau, 44 by Montreal, Hall of Famer. Number 6, Dale Hunter, 41st by Quebec. Number 5, Glenn Anderson, number 69 by Edmonton. Number 4 is Michel Goulet, drafted 20th overall by Quebec. Number 3, Mike Gardner, 4th overall by Washington. Number 2, Mark Messier, drafted 48th overall by Edmonton. And Jason, guess who was number 1?
79.
79.
Redraft, though, what?
Best career of all the above guys.
Oh,
Played for your team.
1979.
But never won a cup with them.
Come on, G.
Drafted 8th overall. Played 20 years there. Had 19 shots on goal one night.
Ray Bork.
You got it.
I was going to say number 77.
Yeah. Yeah, 19
Took you long enough, Jay.
I think for a moment.
Anyway, Jason, thanks for running things and keeping it interesting.
Yep, thanks, Jay.
No problem at all. Well, thank you guys very much for joining us here tonight. And that wraps up your latest edition of the RHL Podcast.